Second section was kind of back to what we were talking about with the big giant head. Forever we're locked into thoughts and conjurings we create due to their power and influence. Thoughts affect your beliefs, and your beliefs affect your thoughts, back and forth. And the really interesting thing that is something that I've been fascinated by is if you repeat something enough, and people hear it enough, it becomes a crystallized, solidified, energetic structure, and you believe that. You take that on if you allow that information to go in repeatedly. And it could be the farthest thing from reality. It could even be the farthest thing from your own personal truth. It may not have anything that jives with what you believe or what you feel, but if you keep doing it over and over and over, and hear it, CNN, wherever it happens to come from, over and over and over, pretty soon that affects you, and you can very easily get off of your path. You can stop your forward progress because you get stuck. That energy gets crystallized into a belief structure. And as we already talked about with the big giant head, those beliefs are limits. They're no longer tools when they become rigid and are not able to be flexed. And again, inner wisdom as well. If you can listen to your inner guidance rather than, did anybody else have voices in their head? I got voices in my head.
Gut. Listen to my gut is what I say.
Listen to your gut, listen to your heart. Whenever it seems to be not so chattery, much more calm, if you can turn off the conscious mind like how I wrote that this morning, let the words kind of flow up from your inner wisdom rather than just, oh, this is what I think I should do, or this is the way it ought to be, or anytime you got shoulds, oughtas, judgments of any kind, that's not your inner wisdom. That's your monkey mind, your monkey chatter, or whatever you want to call it. Any other thoughts on that before we go on? I'm kind of doing a lot of talking. I hope there would be a few more people, but we'll just wait till you guys jump in here, and I know you'll have some thoughts. Freedom to perceive is a gift. We can enhance or detract from reality. Again, perception equals truth, and it's highly subjective. We can choose what we want to do with that reality. Do we want to feel like the world is a safe place to be? Well, it is the world. Everybody's on the world, and we all perceive it very differently. Some people live in fear, some people live in total openness. We're all somewhere in between, and that's, again, all based on our subjectivity, and we can choose whether we want that to be enhanced or detracted. Often detraction leads to constriction, fear, things that close us off, keep us from growing. The work of Bruce Lipton, the cellular biologist, teaches us that right down to the cellular level, you cannot grow if you're in protect or fear mode. It's one or the other. Now, of course, we're made up of 50 trillion cells on average, so we have a spectrum somewhere in between. We're not singular celled organisms, so we can be somewhat in fear, somewhat in growth. But he actually says the opposites are fear and growth, fear and love. And it's hard to grow, hard to be in love if you're in fear. We're in control of our perceptions, and therefore, for the most part, in our lives. And Hans, you were mentioning that earlier. That's basically what it boils down to. The more limits we have, the less alive we allow ourselves to be. The more we hold ourselves back, the more we're not going to be able to grow, the more reactive we are.
Isn't that fear?
Very much.
Fear.
Yeah. Fear goes by a lot of names: stress, anxiety, apprehension. Any forward-thinking, not-so-happy thought you might be having could be construed as fear. So yeah, that's the restrictor. That's what holds us back.
And many times that's imaginary. What we're fearing is not really there.
Can be. That's right. The fear is real. I want to acknowledge that, because every feeling that we have is a real feeling. It's what you do with it once you are aware of that feeling is the next thing. Yeah. So if you allow that fear to remain and your perception is really something that's not so fearful, again, that's an incongruence. That's a misalignment that can actually lead to all kinds of difficulties. Next section, be as active as you can and as least reactive as possible. Again, back to living in the moment. If you are really in good alignment with what your soul purpose is and not too deluded about what's going on in the real world, and you've enhanced it some, you've got a pretty good balance going there, that to me is more of a chance to live in the moment and simply experience rather than have to experience and then jump back and go, what was that all about? Because as soon as you react, now you're thinking about something in the past, and if it turns into a fear, that's a future-based emotion. So you're not in the moment at all. You're either back there or you're up here, and you're not actually able to get the full, rich experience of life in each moment as it comes through. I like the part about free experience is easy and efficient and cheap. And by cheap, it doesn't mean cheap and tawdry, it means it's inexpensive. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're in that free experience, it's just like what I said, it flows. You don't have to work so hard at following those path steps that may not be the straight line, but they might be the most rich and learning experiences along that path to that destination. Let's see. Again, listening and acting in alignment with the soul essence often can seem effortless and is a more rich experience. Fire the managers of fear and gloom, be present. Not a lot of mystery in that one. We've already touched on it here tonight too. Fear is that future-based emotion that's not in the present. It keeps you from growing. It's constricting and contracting. And last discussion we talked just a little bit, I'll touch on it again. What happens when you're in fear? Your body physically reacts to fear in some very distinct ways. It shuts down either partially or wholly your immune system. It routes all of the blood out to your extremities and to the back of your brain, to your hind or instinctive brain, not your creative thought process brain, but your instinctive brain for that fight or flight. So all your blood and all your energy is out here, you're ready to go, you're ready to do whatever you gotta do. The problem is, we're not really running away from saber-toothed tigers very often, so that we have to have that fight or flight that immediately. But we often keep ourselves in stressful situations that put us not necessarily in an immediately perceived danger like that. But anytime you're in a stressful situation and you continue to be in it repeatedly, it fires some some amount of that fight or flight response. So you're getting the adrenaline shot every once in a while. You know, your boss walks by and you're like, oh, okay, like this. If it's a work relationship that's not going real great, you don't need an adrenaline shot sitting at your desk every time your boss walks by. That's not healthy for your body, and your immune system certainly does not need to be shut down with any regularity, because there are little germs and bugs out there. That's exactly what we're using to protect ourselves, is our immune system. So yeah, get rid of those managers of fear and gloom. Get rid of all that gotta watch out kind of an attitude.